Hello everyone, welcome to this video. So in this video we are going to build a complete authentication system which is going to be having role-based access control using Next.js and Next.js. I'm so excited. This video has been requested so much and I had to make it before moving forward. But before we jump in and continue, I want to thank my subscribers. Thank you so much. It has been a great journey up to this point. We moved from right away from the 0 subscribers, 500, 1K. Right now we are standing on 2.99, and I know in a minute or by the end of this, we just before we complete this year 2023, we are going to be already in 3K. So thank you so much for subscribing and sharing the content. It is so much amazing for me to be part of your career and learning how to code with me. Even me, I've been learning so much from you guys, so thank you so much. And let's jump in back into the content. Okay, so today I'm so excited of the system we are going to build. Okay, this system, if you could understand this system, it will add so much to your skill right now. It is under like 2 or 3% of people who can actually implement the authentication system, which actually includes role-based access control, or okay, like a multi-auth, a multi-auth kind of authentication. It is not easy, but today we're going to try to break it down and see if we can get it working. Okay, so before we continue, we're just going to have some terms we break down and try to understand actually what is authentication and what is authorization. Before we move forward to actually building these things, we need to first understand some sort of theory behind authentication and authorization, so that when we start building out the pages and other things, you understand clearly what is going on. Okay, so let's start with authentication. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Authentication and authorizations are the two most used concepts in the field of security. You will see them interchangeably, people using them interchangeably. Others, they think authentication is the same as authorization. Others think that that they are the same. But authentication and authorization, they are two different terms, and they actually they can be used in the same system, as you're going to see. Okay, so let's start with authentication. So authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a user, a system, or attempting to access a particular resource or system. Let's say you have a user who is attempting to access a platform or a system. Let's say you're trying to access your Facebook account, Instagram, or something. Okay, so authentication is that process of verifying the identity of a user. So when you enter the password and your username, or you enter your email and the password, that you are trying to identify who are you. Okay, we are trying to know who are you exactly. Okay, that is authentication. The purpose of authentication, so the primary purpose of authentication is to ensure that the user, okay, is to ensure that the user or entity claiming to be a particular identity is indeed who they say they are. Okay, so when you put in the email and password and you're trying to access your system, we are going to authenticate or to verify if you are actually who you say or who you claim to be. Okay, so that is the primary goal of authentication, is to actually is to ensure that the user, they are what they claim to be. That's the purpose. Okay, so the methods, authentication methods, include something the user knows as password, Okay, we can use a token, or we can use a password. Email can be biometrics like fingerprints, can be facial recognition. It can be a combination of these. Like it can be both the biometrics, fingerprints, like the phones. Okay, like when you go to the phone and you're trying to access your phone, you can use a combination of like a pin, a password, or even a pattern, and plus even biometrics. Okay, so like the good example is when you're trying to log into your phone and they ask you for the personal email. They are trying to authenticate, they are trying to verify if you is what you claim to be. Okay, so when a user, example here, an example, let me just go up here, an example. So we have an example here. When a user logs in into an online bank, entering a username and password, the system checks the entered credentials against the stored records to verify user identity. Okay, so this one is example of authentication, and I hope at this point you have understood what authentication is. It is simply verifying the identity of the user. And we went ahead and gave an example. If a user is logging in into an online banking system, he has to enter a username and a password, and then the system will check if they enter the credentials against the stored records to verify their identity. Okay. Now, what is authorization? So authorization is the process of granting or denying access permission to authenticated users or entities based on their verified identity and assigned privileges. Okay, so this one is what you call authorization. So authorization, we actually, let's say, we're just going to see the example just in a second, but just to know that a process is the process of granting or denying access permissions to authenticated users on their verified based on their verified identity or assigned privileges. Okay, so you find a user is trying to delete a product. Okay, so if a normal user is not supposed to delete maybe an e-commerce, on the e-commerce, I say we are having an e-commerce system, a normal user cannot delete products. Okay, a normal user cannot delete products, and that is what you call authorization. So we check, is this logged in user has access or has privileges of accessing a certain resource. Okay, let's say there is a page that is dedicated for admin users. Is this authenticated user actually has privileges to do a particular action or to visit a particular page? Okay, so we're just going to look at that. Okay, and that is what you call authorization. The purpose, while authentication ensures that the user is who they claim to be, that is the purpose of the authentication. It ensures that the user is who they claim to be. Authorization determines what actions or resources that that authenticated user is allowed to access. Okay, I think this is satisfying purpose or difference. Methods. Authorization is typically implemented through access control mechanism, and that's why we are having role-based access control mechanism, defining roles, permissions, and policies that specify actions or resources a user or a system can access. Okay, so we're just going to use the role-based access control to actually implement this the authorization. But as you can see, we can actually use also, for instance, policies. Okay, we can use roles, we can also use permissions. Okay, so all these are examples you can use. So example here, after a user successfully logs in into a system, authorization determines whether user has necessary permissions to view certain pages, create, edit, or delete data, or perform other specific actions within the application. So this one is the authorization. So I think at this point you understand what authorization and what authentication is. Okay, so we have the key differences here. The focus authentication is concerned with verifying the identity of a user, while authorization is concerned with granting appropriate access rights or permissions based on the authenticated identity. Okay, then the goal of authentication is to confirm the legitimacy of user's identity, and the goal of authorization is to control and manage access to resources or actions based on authentication user's permission. The process authentication involves verification of credentials, identities through various methods, while authorization involves determining and enforcing the access rights and permission or associated with authenticated identity. Timing. So authentication occurs first in the access process. So we first authenticate users before we authorize them. So authorization follows authentication and determines what actions or resources authenticated entity is allowed to access. So in summary, authentication is about verifying identity, while authorization is about controlling access based on that verified identity. Together, these two concepts form foundation of secure access systems, ensuring that only legitimate users can access specific resources and perform authorized actions. So as you can see, these are the most two important concepts you need to understand when you are a full stack developer. Okay, you need to understand these two concepts very well. Okay, you need to understand these concepts very well if you are going to be a full stack developer, and not only understanding the concept but actually implementing them. I don't know if you implement them whether in Django, whether in Laravel, or in Next.js. This time we are going to use Next.js, okay? And in the future we will continue actually posting this concept until we actually get a very nice amicable solution. So let's look at actually the flow. Okay, want to understand before we move on to the pages and starting the application, getting crazy into code. One thing that we have understood up to this point is that we understand very well the authentication and authorization. So what we want to see is some of the things that users are going to go through in the system. What is the flow here? Because if you understand the flow, it will help us also when we are building out pages and knowing from which page the user is going to which page, from which page the user is going to which page, and why. Okay, so the first thing here, I just looked at different users, and basically we're going to be looking at like 3 users I took. We're just going to be looking at a normal user, then we'll have also a vendor, okay, and then we also have like admin. We are going to have these 3 roles are the ones we are going to be looking at, so that we can just like simulate the whole system. Okay, now most of the authentication systems that are on YouTube, for some reasons you will just go and look through. Even on Udemy, there are very few which talk about role-based access control and even take in consideration taking in consideration the user roles while registering and doing all the mechanism. Okay, that's why I came in and said we have to talk about this concept. We have to break down this concept so that you understand it and you can start using it in your applications. By the way, if you're liking the content at this point, fast pause and smash that like button, and also make sure you have subscribed and you have turned on the notification bell so that you always receive content. Okay, so just continue and move on. So at this point we are going to look at the user authentication flow. As we said, we have our 3 users and we are going to be looking at these ones. So let's start with the normal user. So the first process the user has to go through is a registration process. Okay, So when users are trying to attempt to do something, let's say they want to go and access maybe the admin or the cart page or the checkout page, you check if they are authenticated. Okay, normally they will be first pushed to the, because if the users are not authenticated, we don't know if they are already registered or not. So we'll send them to a login page. Then from the login page, if they don't have an account, they will end up on the registration page. Okay, so the first process, like for a new user who has not been on the system, he will have to go through a registration. Okay, so he's redirected to the registration page. He enters the required information. Normally is the email, name and password. So a registration will be taking also, I think, name, email and password in the registration form. We submit the form and then we'll just go ahead and create a user account. Okay, so upon creation, the user account is the user, you can see here, creates a user account with a user role, and then we'll send a verification email. That's where things starts now getting into nice. Actually, most of the processes or the videos you're going to see on internet, they don't talk about the verification email. Verifying the users, this is not even upon, like, we are trying to enforce a second layer. When the first layer is when a user creates an account, they give us their name, their email and password. Okay, now this information is great, but then, for instance, the email, we have to add one more layer to ensure that the email they have used is actually a valid email. Okay, there are so many mechanisms you can prove this, but the most commonly used one is actually sending the verification email. Okay, so you send the email onto their email they have put in. When they click on the account or they enter the OTP code, then we verify that these users are now their account, we verify their account as valid and verified. Okay, so that is one process or one layer you can add. Now in other systems, they can even add more layers, okay, on top of this, but for us, at least we have gone ahead, one more step ahead than the normal authentication that you have been seeing on YouTube and on internet. At least we are adding one more layer whereby you're going to send a verification email. Okay, so the verification email, user receives the verification email with a unique link. Okay, clicking the link verifies the email and marks the account as verified. Okay, so just going to try to see how would we actually do this, but it's a step that we need to do. Okay, so the user at that point can be redirected to the dashboard, and we're going to see that how is this possible. By the way, this is the it is an important step. Okay, it's an important step when a user is redirected to the dashboard. Okay, because we want their data in the session, we need to sign in the background. Okay, we can sign them in the background. As you can see, after the email verification, the user is related to the personalized dashboard. Okay, so the second one is a login. So login, user visits the login page, and this is like after the user have been using the system. When you come to access a resource, then is redirected to the login page and enters their credentials, then submits the form. Then we verify their credentials, checks if the account is verified, then we grant them access to the dashboard. Okay, as simple as that. Now, one more step we are adding here that is not commonly found on YouTube is the password recovery. Okay, so just going to have where someone actually can click and then user on the forgot password link. Okay, we are going to add forgot password, and this one users are going to enter their email address in the password recovery form. They submit it, and then we again send them a password recovery email, and the user follows the link in the email to reset their password. Okay, so this is also going to be really great feature to add in, and So the vendors, now this is a second type of user. The vendors do the same thing. They can register. Now vendors, they also have they are going to have their own registration page, okay, where they can enter the information. Now you can even have more information here, okay. So we just register them, and we have to create an account with a vendor role. Then again, we send them the verification email, and they go through the same process. Now after this, after the verification is done, the vendor is directed now to the onboarding page, okay. Instead of the dashboard, the vendor is redirected to the onboarding page, where they can add additional information, okay. So vendor onboarding, they fill in additional information, and they submit the onboarding, and then we update the their profile with the additional information, okay. So then we'll redirect them now to the dashboard. After onboarding, the vendor is related to their dashboard, okay. So the login is the same thing, and they also have the password recovery, and they do the same thing, okay. And the last user is the admin, who has all the privileges. And this one, we are just going to, you can either create a special admin registration, but in most of the systems, actually you have to manually set up the admin account during the initial system setup, okay. And this is what you just to do. We have to get one account, like we name it admin at admin, and then we just manually set this one to be have the admin profile, okay. Then the login, they can actually log in as usual like other users with this role of admin, and then they don't have the reset and all other things. And admin, they can have control over everything on the system, okay. They can delete everyone, they can control products and everything, all the transactions on the system they can actually control. So up to this point, we have done a great job. We have understood the authentication and authorization. We have also again understood these processes that we are going to go through, okay. So now speaking of which, what I did, okay, yeah, actually this video was supposed to be made yesterday. So the more I started on the video, I realized one thing is that we had a lot of things to set up, okay. So what I did, I tried to get like a small startup template that we are going to start up with, so that we don't actually have to write all the HTML, okay. So most of these things is HTML pages and what I did not create all the pages. We are going to create other pages together, and the most importantly, all the logic that is going to be doing everything, we are going to do it together. But the HTML, as you can see, like the header, this navigation, the hero section, and the footer, there is no need to see me actually coding out these ones, okay. There is no need of seeing me coding out these ones. So that's why I went ahead and did this. Now there are some other small pages. For instance, we have the login page, we have also the registration page, then we have also the dashboard page. I just be moving you through these pages. As you can see here, we have this, the login page, as well as the sign up page, okay. As you saw, now I can just go back to the login page, and then we have the forgot password page, okay. We have this the reset password or recover password, and where we can send the email, okay. We have also, I think, another one. We have other pages, we'll be seeing them. If we just go here, we have also the dashboard, okay. We can also visit the dashboard, okay, and we'll add other things on the dashboard like the logout links and so many other things. We'll be just like looking at these ones. We have also a simple profile page, okay. We have a simple profile page like this one that we are going to start on as a starting point, so that we start now putting all these things together to build our system. Already coming to this one, we are going to add more things to the dashboard when it comes to authorization, okay. But we're just going to move a step by step, and you're going to be looking at one user and doing all those things. So the first step you're going to do that you have to do is to get actually this GitHub. I'm just going to copy, I think just go here, I'm just going to get this and put it here, okay, here, and they just put the first step as, so here just going to say maybe h2, I'm just going to say clone the GitHub repo, okay. So just simply clone this. So this one I'm just going to say code, it is going to be like git clone, then you clone this. So just put this git clone this, and then you will be able to now actually have this starter template, okay. You have this starter template. It does not have everything, but you just have this the starting point whereby we can actually start and we are on the same page. Now when you get this, the first thing you have to do is, after this, okay, you can now, I think, cd into, so this one is going to create this folder, so you can say cd into the Auth system something, I think it is starter, just like that. And then after cd into this folder, we can just go ahead and now you could run npm install, okay. Just run this npm install to make sure you actually have all the dependencies. Now I'm just going to switch to my project and I'm just going to show you the dependencies that we have so far, okay. So if I just go to package.json, okay, I have here the Prisma adapter, Prisma client, I have upload thing, okay. This is for this here in this, actually for this uploading the image, okay. Now we have the Flowbyte, yeah, Flowbyte, I used it, Flowbyte React, actually it is one I used to build out some of these components, like getting this like this nice drop down here. This one was built out by Flowbyte React, okay. We have Lucid, this is for icons, and of course Next.js 14.04. Then we have NextAuth, okay. Of course NextAuth is only just going to use to implement everything and upload thing, as I've said. We have also React Hook Forms and React Hot Toast. These ones are for the toast notifications. This one is for going to be used in validating the form inputs, okay. And that's it. And we have also Tailwind and Prisma, okay. So we have also the Prisma itself, and this is what we have so far, okay. So as I've said, I'm just going to take you onto the, now show you the project, how it is set up, so that you get up to speed. I'm just going to close all these pages, okay. Now if you just look at this, we have the app, we have the components, the lib folder, the public, and all other other pages, as you know them, the files. Now in the app, this is where we have the magic. So in the app, we have two things. We have the back office and the front end. Now to those ones who have been following my videos, you know, you must are familiar with this concept, okay. Now if you are not familiar with this concept of the brackets, now putting these brackets like this, and you put you put the name of a file inside, means it will not be included in the navigation, okay. It will not be included in the routing, but it can be used to separate like separate folders, okay. It can be used to separate like two to create layouts. Most people we use it to create two layouts, okay. That's why I have the original layout, okay. If you look here, I have this original layout, and this one has nothing much. It's where we connect the CSS, and it's where I actually also put the upload thing, okay. So this is why I put the upload thing plugin. This one, there is nothing much, but for the front end, So the front end part is this part here. If you just go to this normal localhost 3000, okay, you can set it is entirely different. So you can see here, this is typically different. If you go to other pages, now I do not put the actually pages here. I think it should just like, we'll just go ahead and just update them here on top, okay, like the pages we have the recovery. If you go to like the register page, you will see that it is using this nav bar, okay, it is using this nav bar. And just because in the front end we are using this the layout, if you go in the layout, you see we have the nav bar section and the footer section, and they are these ones you are seeing here, the nav bar and the footer down here, okay. Yeah, so that is it. That's why we have this layout, and that's why we put this into this folder, because it is not included. As you can see, when you go to register, we are not having anything to do with front end, okay. We are not having a front end then register page. No, this, if you put in the brackets like this, it will be eliminated in routing, okay. So if you just go ahead now onto the register page, this is the page, okay. So we have how many pages so far? We have the forgot password page, we have the login page, we have the register page, we have the reset password page, we have the verify account page. You can just like visit them, and you say like verify account, okay. There is this this page, okay. So verify account is on a dynamic route. Just like if you just check inside this verify account, you set there is this ID, then you access this page, okay. So it's on dynamic, want to verify a certain user, and you can see here verify your account, okay. Please check your email, we have sent you a verification link, and click on the link to verify your account, okay. So we have something like this, okay. So we have all these pages, okay. Now we're just going to, we might need to build more pages, okay, than these ones. And then also, I don't know how much time will take to build this, either in one episode or 2 episodes, okay. And I never wanted also to put it as this is an independent video. It is not part of the multi-vendor, because in the multi-vendor we'll go ahead and also put in its own system based on this one, okay. So now let's just like go ahead, and this is now the front end. If you look at the front end pages, now if you go to the back office, we have the also its own layout. If you just look at it, we have the sidebar, we have the nav bar. That's why, and this back office is not included in the routing. What will be included will be the dashboard. That's why if I come here and I just put dashboard, that's like that, it just redirects me to the dashboard, okay, just like this. And onto this dashboard, you see I have only one page so far, which is the profile page. We might actually create more pages, but right now I have the profile page, which actually have the profile update form. If you go to this profile page, you can see that we are having this the form where someone can update their stuff, okay, just like that. Okay, so this is a simple template I have for now. We are going to add in more things as we move on, but this marks as our starting point, okay. So where do we start from? That's the question, and it's a good question. Where do we start from up to this point? So if you just look at this, if you just go back here, okay, if I go back to our flow, you can see that the first thing is actually registering users, okay. So before we log them in, the first thing is to register the users, and we also take consideration of the fact that we can register them, and we can also take in consideration the user role, okay. So to be able to register a user, we need two things. Okay, the first one, we need to create the form. Okay, actually there are not only two things. Okay, to be able to register users, what do we need here? Okay, so what we need, I think I can just add like another bullet. What do we need here? What do we need here? So what we need is, we need to have the registration form ready, and this is where we get the information, the registration form for gathering the actual registration data. Okay, so after this, we have to send the data to the API, send the data to the register user endpoint, just like that. Okay, send the data to the register user endpoint. So that means we have to have an API user endpoint. That is another thing. The third thing we need now is the schema. So we'll have to save the data to the database. So we have to save data to the DB, Okay, so you have to save the data to the DB. Now the DB, for this case, I think we're going to use MongoDB. Okay, and then to do that, to be able to do that, we have to use Prisma. Okay, or you could just use, of course, Mongoose, but we have been using Prisma. We're going to stick to that. So here we can use Prisma. Okay, we can just use Prisma. The Prisma, that means we have to set up Prisma, and we also need a database. Okay, so this is what we need so far to make sure we have everything in place. So we can just make sure we have the register user endpoint. Okay, we can just make sure this is the register user API endpoint, and that one we can make sure of it. And we can just first go to this. Let's go to the app, and then someone goes to get started, and they are redirected to this create new account page, which is our normal register page. Now we might just actually we'll create another page which is purposely for registering the vendors. Okay, we're going to see the difference. Now another thing I just want to make up is, on this one, we are not going to add, I was thinking to add actually the sign up and the GitHub and Google sign up, and even login with Google and sign up. Now, to purposes of understanding the concept, I just try to strip off this part, but I think those ones who will do the course will try actually make the full system with the Google and the GitHub. Though I already have a video about the sign up with Google. We did a video, is already there on my channel. You can check it up and see what we did there. But in this, we are going to stick with the credentials method, because actually most of the systems, they at the end of the day, you can't just use Google and the GitHub, but the legacy system, or the system where you have control over the users, is going to be this one. Okay, now the second thing I'm just going to we need, so this is the first thing we need. Okay, and we have to make sure that this gives the information. Okay, so this table basically, if I'm talking about the form, what I want you to understand is not just like the HTML, is the logic behind. Okay, so the logic is that a user enters the details, we can just go ahead and use a fake filler. We have here the name, we have their email, and the password. Okay, now on to this data, what we need, one is we have to add the user role on top of this data. Two, we have to have a way to validate the data. Okay, if someone tries to enter no data, we need to get a way of verifying this data. Okay, that is great. Now the second thing that we need to do is to be able to collect this data and put it as an object. Okay, and for that we'll use React hook form. Okay, if you don't know about React Hook Form, I would just prefer you pause the video and just go watch one of my videos about React Hook Form. Okay, but basically it validates if a user have entered the data and to really pass correct this data into a data object. Okay, so at this point, if we have that information, we can just take that one as step 1. So I'm just going to do that. Go to this, go to the registration page, which is under the front end. You can see we have the this register. You can design it the way you want, but I just managed to design this one. Okay, you have this form. I can just go to the register form. Okay, so you can see, first of all, just going to go to the form. So the form has the label, name, and the input. Now we register it using the React Hook form. Okay, sorry for that. We're just going to register using the React Hook form, where this name matters a lot. If you are registering using React Hook form, you just have to pass in the key you want to name this one as the name. Then required, it is true. Then this one is the HTML for it. And then if there's any errors, we just show if the person has not entered this, we can say this field is required. Okay, you can, by the way, go ahead and add more verification to this. For simple purposes, I added only this one, but you can follow the documentation for the React Hook form to add other validation rules. Okay, so for the email, we have the email here and we have the register here. So register, we pass in the email, and then finally we have the password. Okay, and by the way, if you look at one thing here, you will just notice that for this one we have this the validation rules. We have this one, and down here I have another one, which is the email error. Now upon registration, one thing you should know, when a user enters the details, we attempt to save these details into a user account or in a user table. But the first thing we first check, what if actually this user already exists. If this user already exists, we have to give them an error, also them an error of conflict, that this email is already taken up or is already used by another user. They can try another one. Okay, so that's the most big validation that you have to do from the backend or from database, is to check if the users are already existing in the database. Okay, and we're going to see how actually to achieve that. Then finally we have the password. Okay, and then we have this the button. Okay, we have the button with type submit and can just type sign up. Okay, so that's great. Now going back to the React Hook form here. Okay, so the step number 1, before we go into so many other things, I'm just going to have a try catch, and before I move to all these other ones, okay, the step number 1, let me just comment all this out. Did I just mess up something? Let me see. I think I did the whole try. Just do this. I'm just going to go ahead and first of all comment out all these things here up to this point here. I just only want to console the data. Okay, I want to console.log the data. Let me just go back. I'm just going to only just take off this off, and let me just take off these responses here, these ones. Yep, just like that. Okay, so we have only this, and just even go ahead and take off these ones. So we are going to do one step at a time. So how this works, we actually import the register and the handle submit and the reset and the errors from this hook called use form hook from this use form hook comes from the React hook form, which we also installed. Okay, so now when you just go here, you see that you have the actually how it works is that you have to use the register function and the handle submit function to get the data from the form. And how? The only thing you just need to do, make sure that all your inputs have this name, and make sure that the name you have here is the name you have registered here. Okay, if you say name is name, then you register it here, and then here you pass in the validation rules you want. Right now we only have the required rule only. This is what we do. After you have given all your inputs these two things, the most important thing is this, the register and the name. Now this one will capture this, they will pass this into the handle submit. The handle submit function takes in the on submit, okay, and then gets all the data from the form and passes this data to the on submit function. The on submit function receives the data, and that's why it is having the data entering in here, because it enters from the form. Now it can console this data here. So let's just check this step only to see if that one is happening. So simply go to this form and let's go to the place F12 to go to the console, just like that. Just like increase this, and the console seems to have a lot of things right now. I'm not sure from where. It is why we have the class. These ones we have to sort them, I think, later on as we move on. Okay, just clean everything and just have these things, and let's click on sign up. Okay, so you can see we have the name, email, password, just these things, name, email, password. Now as you can see, this is the normal route for registering the users. We have to add one more thing. Okay, now the trick here we can just use is, I'm just going to quickly, okay, show you something. We have this, I'm just going to create another folder quickly from this one. Okay, I'm just going to create another route. Just copy this and let's go ahead and paste it in this, in the front end. Just simply paste this. Now want to add the role functionality, we have to, by the data, when we have this data, on this data we must only not have three things, as we said. One, take into consideration the role. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead here and name this one as register vendor, just like that. Or you could just create the vendor register, whatever you want. Then here we have this one. So you have also this page. It is using the same component. The only thing we can just put as a difference is that we can pass in the role here. I can just say here role is equal to vendor. Okay, we can have here the role called vendor, and then also here on the normal register we can pass in the role. Okay, we can pass in the role and we say user, like as in normal user, so that this role will be now taken to this. We can come to this page and accept the role. Okay, we can accept the role just like this. There are two ways how you can handle this. Okay, you could pass this role into this use form, or you can just simply bring this here and we try to say const. Okay, we could just say data, we add it on the data dot role is equal role, as simple as that. Okay, let's now go one more time. Once again, go ahead and check, because for these normal users, when they go to the register page, this one, the role, you see it has to be the user, and when they go to register, I'm just going to duplicate this page to demonstrate that. And just say here, I'm just going to say register vendor, just like this. So you see that the forms are exactly the same. Okay, you can see the form are exactly the same. What actually changes is the route. Okay, what changes is only the route, and even here the route. Okay, and by the way, to go to this page, instead, let me just also duplicate here. I'm just going to go one more time to the localhost here on this home page. Now for the normal users, they will come and click here on get started. Okay, but in the footer, we're just going to put one more link. I'm just going to look for the footer in the components footer section. I'm just going to go and see if I can get a link in the footer in one of these links that are here. Let's first see which one can we change. We can just change maybe on this about, it doesn't matter. And then instead of flow byte, I'm just going to say here, okay, register vendor. Okay, and here we can just say here, okay, register as a vendor, just like that. So you can just put this link in the footer, and then our vendors can find this link here, and then they can just go to that site. Okay, this one doesn't need to be put here, or if you just put an app somewhere, you have to clearly say that you are registering as a vendor here. Okay, when someone clicks it, it will take them to this register vendor, and then the normal users use this normal registration. Now the difference is, if right now we submit data and try to sign up, now you look at this, we have the email, name, password, and look at the role, guys. The role is a user. Let's do the same thing to this. Okay, I'm just going to press F12, and then now I'm just going to go and fake fill. I have this, click on sign up. Now guys, look at this. I have the email, name, password, and role is a vendor. So already we have two separate registration pages, whereby we're having the users actually registering and they are getting their roles passed in correctly using the same component. Okay, that is very important, using the same component. Okay, that is, you would use different component, of course, there is no problem, or you could even add more fields. Okay, and we could even hide fields based on this. If we wanted, we could hide some fields onto this one using this role. Okay, I could just add, if I wanted to ask more information, or you want to modify this form to add more details, you could hide them using this role. Okay, that is done. At least we have our information actually being gotten from the form easily right now. The second step is actually to go ahead and create the API endpoint. Okay, if you look here, we have to create API users or user. So you're just going to go to here and see, I have the API and I have the users folder, and they have this route.js. So create users. Actually, I think you already have this. Go to this route. Okay, now one thing we have to do is to install bcrypt. I've just seen it right now, so just simply copy this bcrypt. Okay, and just go here. Now those who don't know bcrypt is for encrypting the passwords. So go ahead and say npm install bcrypt. Okay guys, you don't have this one installed, just simply install it right now. Meanwhile, we just understand this code. Okay, so in the last step, we had this data submitted here. As you can see, the data is submitted: email, name, password, role. Okay, so data is submitted, and we have even the role, and the four things we expect to receive in our endpoint: the email, name, password, and role. So I'm just going to go here. I expect to receive name, email, password, and role from the request. That is the most important thing. Okay, then first thing we have to check if this user actually exists in the database. That means we have to have this user in our database or in the this this is Prisma. Okay, now to those who don't know the Prisma, why you are seeing the DB, you can see I'm getting this DB from the lib folder. If let me just try to go to the lib folder and see if I have this actually with me. Let me just close this. Let's go to the lib. You may find it is not there. Let's just confirm. In the lib, you see in the lib we don't have this, the DB. So we can't just create that. I'm not sure if I have it here. Let me scroll down. You might just find I have it somewhere. Let me scroll. In this one, there's a lot of information in here. Use it the way you want, but it's actually just like the same thing. Just need the I just need the DB, I guess, only. Okay, so I have this DB here. Okay, so db.js, just simply copy this, Control C. I'm just going to go in this lib and create db.js, and inside just put this, and this is just create a global Prisma instance. Okay, it creates a new instance if there is none in the global, but if it exists, then it uses that instance, more especially if the production is in development. Okay, so we have that. Now let's go back to this route. Okay, let's go back to this route. Now the first check, we're just going to talk about these ones. The first check is to first understand, is this user already exists in the database? Okay, so if this user, and we can check it using this, await user find unique, and then we get the user whose this email you have just received belong to. If we find this user is there, we want to actually alert the users, so we return a next response where we have that as null, and then the message. Okay, the message here will be user with this email already exists in the database. Now look at the message. Okay, and then we also broadcast a status of 409. Okay, if everything is okay, it will continue and then encrypt the password and eventually actually save the user, just like that. Okay, now there is two modifications you have to make, but first, before we make the modification, I just want to show you how we capture this. How do we capture this onto the UI? Okay, so as you can see, this will be returned in the response. When you say next response.json, it will return this as a response. Okay, now when we return this as a response, this one, now let's go to the registration form. You will see that, let me just go ahead and comment this code. Now if you see here, we send the data, so at this point we get the response and we are sending the data. By the way, basically be careful, we are having API users, so here we support to send API users sorry, and then we continue, we have the headers, and then we send the data. Now here we have the response. Okay, we have the response data. Now this response data is actually what we get from the route here. Okay, it either can be this response, depending if it is of the depending on the status, or it can be this response, this one, which has the data of a new user and this message. Now if we go back to the register form, in this we check the response. Okay, we are checking if the response is okay. First of all, we have this response is where we are getting the data from, but here we are checking for one thing, if the response.ok is true. If it is true, then we set the loading false, we toast that a new user has been created, and then we go ahead and reset the form, and we can now push them to the login page where they can log in. Now the second thing here, we can also just have this, set loading to false. Now you look at this errors. That means if the response is not okay, that means it can either be something that has gone wrong, or it is this status we have here in the route, this status of 409. Okay, we have here on top a status of 409 where the user already exists in the database. This one, this one. If you have any status rather than 20, 200 and 201, the okay will not be right, it will be false. Now it will have this, okay, or it can just have this, one of the two. That's why this one has status of 500, the other one has status of 409. Now how do we cater for that? Here we just go and check errors. First we check the loading to false, and then we see if the response to status is equal to 409. First we want to set the email error to email with this user with this email already exists, and we can also go ahead and toast it to make sure or to ensure the user sees it. Errors. Now here you can handle other errors. That's why I said toast.error, something went wrong. Okay, or if it is an actual error, we also just probably like a network error or something went wrong, we also have it here in the catch. Okay, but most importantly, we have, of course, we can look at this error in details. Okay, now what we want to see is if this system works. Now to make sure it works, we have to create a user. Okay, now to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and make sure you have Prisma installed. So I will scroll back up. After this one, you will see here where I said install dependencies. Okay, where I said you install dependencies. So make sure you have these dependencies. Make sure you have the NextAuth, and I think we looked into the package. We have NextAuth installed somewhere. Okay, here, and then we have to also check if you have Prisma client and Prisma. Now Prisma adapter, this one we might not need it, but we just need it in later on. Actually we need it. So just make sure also you have Prisma client and the adapter and the Prisma itself. Okay, so just have these one, the Prisma adapter, I'm seeing them there, and the Prisma client plus the Prisma itself. Okay, then finally we can initiate a Prisma with MongoDB using this command. Just going to go ahead and do that just on this npx Prisma init data source provider as MongoDB. Okay, as simple as that. Let's see what this one is going to do. But basically it's going to create a new folder where we can add our schemas. Okay, so you can just go ahead and do this. Okay, so it's, it is taking its time, but it's going to just go ahead and create a folder. You can see it has created a Prisma folder here. It has created a Prisma folder, and it tells you exactly what it has done here. Okay, it says your Prisma schema was created. Okay, it says you already have a git ignore. Don't forget to add the env, and this is important. So just go to your git ignore and make sure that you have the env file. Okay, and for some reason actually it's always not there. I don't know if this you have it in you have my credentials for the schema, but it's okay. Just make sure you use your own credentials, because these are all for testing. I'm not using whatever for a big issue, but just make sure you have your credentials, and just add this one to make sure that you don't push it to GitHub. And I think I had not actually added it. So it is always they add other files, but for some reason you can see they add env.local, but they don't add the env. So just add this env there. And Prisma requires to use env, not env.local sometimes. So just stick to env. Okay, so now they created the sales steps you have to follow. Set the database URL in the MV file to point to existing database. If you have no database, you can read these to get started. Refine the models in the schema, then run Prisma generate to generate the Prisma client. You can then start creating your database. So they gave us what to do. So what I'm just going to do is, I don't know if I should just use like my my existing MongoDB stuff. I feel like I've created a lot of this year, but just go to MongoDB. If you don't know how to create a MongoDB, I'm just going to go to one of my projects and I think get the the URL, the database URL. I don't want to go through that process. Just go ahead and do that. Get your URL. I'm just going to go here and just in a second, let me just go and get some of existing, I guess. From where exactly can I use? I think let me just, I could just go like into this one. I will just change the database. Just go to Microsoft the MV file. Okay, just double click it. Now sometimes it can open with just open with VS Code always. Okay, so I'm just going to go here, copy this database URL. That's the only thing I want from here. There are other things like upload thing and this, but I'm just going to copy only the DB URL and just go ahead and close this. Now let's go to our MV and make sure you get the database URL and also get your own upload thing, guys. Get your own upload thing. It's good you do that, okay? Because anytime I'm just going to roll out this one after I do this, okay? In the upload thing, you can just go ahead and roll out. They have that one. Okay, if you go to upload thing, let me see. If you just go to upload thing, I'm just going to log in. Actually, I'm just like already logged in. Just go to dashboard, and for this I created a new app, which is this Auth system. Just click, I guess, like anywhere here, and then I have the API keys. Now if you just go down here, there is, I think, I don't know if it is here, there is what they say here, roll. You can roll the key and then they will give you the another key. If you think like your key is compromised, you can just go ahead and click on this roll the key and then they will give you new keys here. Okay, they are moving on. Where were we? Yeah, or just setting up the MongoDB URL. So just go ahead and create one. I'm just going to change the database, though. I'm just going to create here a database so that they can create. I'm not sure if they are allowed to create two databases. I'm not sure, but let me just create here in this one. I'm just going to create Auth DB, just like this. You can just create and put here slash the database you want, and then like that. Okay, so we have created the URL. Now this URL is going to be used in the Prisma. If you just go in the schema here, we have set everything to MongoDB and then database URL here. Now it is just to add, for us to add the schemas. Okay, so the schema we just want is a user actually. So you can scroll into this one. If you scroll down here, you're going to find there are a lot of things there, by the way, but never mind, just going to be moving through them. So just going to reach here where you have a schema. I don't like this where you scroll and then like it disappears again. Let me just, okay, so it is here. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll up just like this. So you have the schema here, MongoDB. Now let me just, you could just go ahead and just copy this. Okay, then I will remove others. Just go here and simply paste here. Okay, now we're just going to remove other things. Let's start with the roles. So for the roles, this is how you save the roles. Okay, now if you have something not only for the user roles, if you have something where the values to be selected are defined, let's say you have services, you can even have services. If you know your services are only 2, or you know your users are only 3, or you know that let's say we could call another one like gender. Okay, you could just say, for instance, enum. Okay, then you put the name of the enum, for instance, gender. Okay, and then in the gender you can say I have 2 genders. Okay, and then you say, for instance, I have the male. Okay, male, and then I also have the female. So if you know you are going to have only 2 of them just like this, you can actually define them like that. Okay, you can just go ahead and define the enum, and then you pass in the 2 values that you can actually select. Okay, this is the purpose of the enum. This is how you put let's say the 2 things you can select from. Let's say if you have a selection of a certain definite values, then you can define them like enum, just like this, and then you can now start using them in your models. So for now, we want to define the roles, and we have 3 roles: the admin, user, and the vendor. Others, I'm just going to remove them, so just going to put vendor, just like this. So you have the 3 users. If you have as many users, you can add. Okay, or you can even create its own model for creating the user roles. In the future, if you want this kind of video, we can actually create it whereby the admin has a model for creating user roles. He can create other admins, super admins, and other kind of stuff. We can also do that. Then we have here a normal user. A user can have a name, email, and password. Now you can see, be careful, he has password. Now, one thing I want to tell you guys, upon on the registration here, if you want to sign up a user and for some reason you don't want them to go to the login page and you think it is so disturbing, okay, sometimes you can find it is so disturbing after someone has registered and then you take the person back to the login page. If you want to sign them into the system, that means you have to run the login function behind the scenes after the registration. If you think there's something that is disturbing, what we can do is we can actually also get the plain password. So here I can also check and I save their password. Okay, we can save their password, and this is going to be a string, also a string. Okay, and this one is not supposed to be just like optional. This is going to be required. Image can be optional. Now, email verified, this one is supposed to be a boolean, guys. Okay, we're going to be checking if the email is verified. Let's just make this one a boolean, and you can just say boolean, and then we can just also give at default, and we can just say by default someone is not. Okay, so at default we are saying false. So all the users, when you create them, they will say email verified, it will be false. Okay, we can just also go and say email verified date. Okay, we're just going to have this, just say here the one that was there. I'm just going to create one more here. Okay, down here, I'm just going to call this one email. email verified, email verified, verified date, okay, email verified date, and then this one can be date time, and then you can also make it just like it is optional, optional, just like this, and then let's remove the default, just like this. We want to know when were they verified. You could also just have email email verified trial account, like email verification account, or like count, okay, because a user can keep on like failing to you want to know how many times have they been trying to be verified, so that every time he increases the verification, he requires the we send him the verification, we can increase the count, okay, we can increase the count. You can just put it or leave it, but it's something you can just like put in the future, like the email, how many times has he been trying to verify. So if you keep on sending, and like that's why you say sometimes you send, you keep on sending the code or sending the verification link. If it reaches the number of times, they tell you that you try after like 2 hours or after this one. That means they are actually taking in the verification time. So you say verification, maybe you got verification request count, okay, and this one you can just say like is an int, okay, just say is a float or is int. I think it's like just an int, just like this, and this one can be also optional, but this one we just want to know how many times has this person actually requested for verification, more especially when they are just requesting for the verification link. We can have the image, the hashed password, the actual password. This one actually is the unhashed password. Okay, this one is the really plain password. And you just say plain password. Now let me just pause and first give you a hint about this. Unknown circumstances, all the database passwords are supposed to be hashed, okay, and I'm also not so much like I'm a good engineer working at Google trying to tell that you save the plain passwords, okay. It is not recommended at any cost, it is not recommended at any cost to save the plain passwords in the database. Now, but at a cost of helping users to have a better user experience, logging them behind the scenes, you need to know their passwords. Now, if someone who is watching a video, you have actually a better way of handling this situation, you can actually help us in the description and comment how would we handle better this scenario, whereby we can ignore actually saving the plain password, we only use the hashed password, and we can know how to sign them behind the scenes only using the hashed password and their email. Okay, if you know how to solve that, for now the only solution I have is to actually go ahead and save also this password. Okay, now the role by default we are saying it is a user, which is great. Then we have created art, and then this one. Now since we're not going to handle this, I'm just going to handle this. Now we're just going to create we have two more things here. We have this profile. Now this is just a normal user profile. You can see we can also have the profile, and this one can be used on the profile page, where we have the profile page to update more data from the user. And then we can also have go ahead and also have, for instance, the vendor. Okay, we call it like organization here. I think I can just call it like vendor. Just call it vendor, I think, profile. Okay, and then I'm just going to give them here and call it like vendor profile, vendor profile. Make sure just copy this and just bring what that was organization. Now account, we don't actually need account, we are not going to use, so user profile is okay. Now here I'm just going to turn it into this. Okay, so this is for vendor. Okay, and you can see it is a one-to-one. Let me just go back here to the user and explain more about this. I know some people didn't understand this relationship. So here we are creating a relationship on this user. Okay, so you think about this when you actually log into a system and they take you to the profile page where you can actually add more information like date of birth, because we might just not necessarily maybe need it on the vendor. If the data is needed on both of the two, we better save them actually here. Okay, the problem with here is that we actually don't have any form we want to be using for actually updating this information. So what we can do is we can save all this information actually on like more onto these ones. If we want specific information on the vendors that is not on other users like a normal user, then we can save it in the vendor profile. We can save it under the vendor profile model. So this model, it will be saving more information or more data onto of the vendors. Okay, so if you just come down here on this vendor here, we can get more information. Okay, I can say for instance here we can just say what is the organization name they are working. Just say here for instance what is their, maybe I don't know what we should just call this, like we can ask them something like here what is their profession. Do we need a profession? If a vendor is like for e-commerce, what would we ask them? Let me just think. What other information do we ask them? I just say maybe the phone number. Okay, we can just like add the phone number, just add this as a string. Okay, just going to add just going to add this string here. Like we can add them their phone number, we can add them as company name, maybe what do they want to call the company name or the shop. They just say the vendors are shopping, they are setting the shop. Just say here shop, maybe shop name. Okay, they want to call what is the shop name or what is their location, what is their phone number. We're also going to have a small this vendor profile page. This is going to be the onboarding page for them. So here you can ask all the other information you want on the onboarding page. Okay, how many, what, their phone numbers, their location, their email, what. So ask them that information. Okay, and we can display this on this page. Okay, and we can just like use this one to update it. For now, we're just going to have only these three fields for purposes of keeping this small. One more thing, the same thing to the profile. If you just go to the profile here, user profile, you can see we can ask more information from our users, like normal users. Like for instance, we have date of birth. I think we just like name this one as DOB, as simple as that. And like they have also their address. You can ask them their username, for instance. We can just come here and you see what is the username that you want. And we can just name this one as a string. Okay, just come here and just say string, just like this. You might kind of be viewing Prisma database. Okay, so here is just like a string, just like this. So you can just go ahead also on the user profile, add all the information you want. Okay, if you are building a system whereby you want like experience, skills, social media handles, what, all that information, the more information that you want specifically on this particular user, you can add it in this model. Okay, so you can add all this information here. The same thing to actually the vendor profile. Okay, you can also go ahead and create the third one specifically for admin users. For this case, I created only these two that we can work with, but you could just go ahead and create specific information maybe for the admins, and you can also create it and you create admin profile. As simple as that. Now we can move on. So we have this. Make sure that you have all the things you need here. Okay, there are other things you're going to be needing. For instance, the verification token. So I'm just going to also just come here. We have to save the verification token, and this is going to be a string. So just copy this and just put it here. So you have to save the token. You are going to be generating the token. Now you could just use the token, or you could use OTP, whichever you want. I don't know which one you should use, but just like maybe stay with the verification token whatsoever. Just come here and I can just stay with this verification token, just like this. Okay, we just be sending it and save it here in this, just like that. Okay, so we are done, just like this. Okay, now we have this. The next thing, we have to push this. Okay, we have to make sure we push this to our database, and I think the command we just need to use, I think we have everything we want on the user. Just in case, we'll add in others if we need them. So just go ahead and say npx Prisma db push, just like that. So just run this npx Prisma db push, and it is recommended that when you're just doing this, you are supposed to actually shut down. Just click allow. Okay, just click allow access. Now just simply actually restart the system. You have to restart your server simply because it is going to generate a new Prisma client. So we want to have this new Prisma client that is having all this database information. Okay, it has to have these schemas. These schemas, they will all be added to the Prisma client. Then we can access it in our routes. Okay, we can access it in our routes. I'm just going to go ahead and just close out some of these. Avoid confusion. Let me just also go to app API users route here. Okay, so now let's just go and see if there was some problems. What happened? MongoDB error occurred during DNS resolution. Font name, this cluster type, this will be blah blah. I don't know, man. Just I feel like I'm just going to go and just simply create. Maybe this is due to the fact that I use the same. If you just go like MongoDB Atlas, just go to the MongoDB Atlas. I never wanted to go ahead and do this whole thing of logging in, creating a new cluster, but for the purposes of this to work out, okay, I'm not going to just keep on like hassling like that. I would have to go ahead just like sign in. Okay, I'm just go ahead and log in, and then like we can just log in with Google. If you don't have an account at this point, you can create it. Just going to go ahead and create in log in using my Google account. I'll create a new project so that I can get my everything. Okay, I'll just go ahead and create everything. So we have a lot of databases. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new one, a new project. Okay, I'm just going to create this called let's just call this new project. Just going to call it Auth system. the Auth system, just like this. Click next. Then I'm the owner, I'm not adding anyone, just create. Okay. Okay, so you can just go ahead and now create a database. Create, just click on create. Okay, they just go ahead and create a database. Okay, make sure you select this M0, the free tier, and create. Okay, so now here we have to copy this password. The username will be fulfilled. Copy this password, copy this password. Okay, and let me just go to my MV file. So go to this MV and let's paste the password somewhere, like here in this space, just like so. And now go ahead and click create user. The username, you can see create the user. Go ahead and add the IP address. You can add the one of 0.0.0.0 stroke 0, and then add this entry, just like that. Okay, just allow you, and then just say finish, and then just go congratulations on setting up the access rules. Click on overview. Okay, and then go ahead and click on connect. Then you can choose the drivers. Scroll down, make sure you have Node.js. Okay, and then down here they just tell you this. Scroll down, then you have this connecting string. You have this one, you can just simply copy this. So just copy this, and what just I need is you just need to come and replace it, the one with here. Okay, just going to replace with this one. So just going to remove, and then I put just like this. So they have this, they have telling us here to insert the password. So I'm just going to copy this password, cut it, and just put it here, just like that. And then here where they have this, simply put the DB. Just going to put auth system DB, just like that. Okay, as simple as that. We are done with the database, and after that you can see replace the password with the password, blah blah, just like that. Just click on close, and let's go ahead and now push one more time. Now we have a new database URL. I don't know if there's anything else I need to do. Just go ahead and push npx prisma db push. Let's go one more time and try to push, and we see if this time we get success. Okay, there is DNS resolution MongoDB error. Really? An error occurred during DNS resolution. No record found. Name MongoDB cluster 0 ABC. Was this the same error like we had before? Cluster ABCD, a cluster here is what? But this is as if it has not even saved. Just like try to save this. Is not even loading. Did it load like environmental variables here? Database my DB at cluster this. Let's first check something in this URL. Oh, okay. So database URL we have two, dude, we have two strings. Sorry, we have also this one down. The one that came with the env file that was created. Sorry for that. I did not see that, guys. Sorry for that. So they were just taking the last one, and yeah, this everyone, those ones happens. Let's run one more time. Unless you have also seen how I created the database, always be there to troubleshoot. Shoot. You can see right now it has been created. We are good to go. Okay, so it tell you this has been created, all system DB cluster, and then we created the collection user, the U vendor, and this one, the email verification, user profile, blah blah. Okay, we are good. So you can just go ahead, first of all, go back and run our system, npm run dev. Okay, and you can also just on this side, I just going to open the third one, and this one just going to open npx Prisma studio. You can open the studio to see what is happening with your clusters. And one thing I just want to verify, if you just look at this, it did not generate. Okay, so it says generated Prisma client. Okay, make sure you see this, that it generated Prisma client, because it has to always generate the Prisma client. So I have the Prisma here, and you can see the Prisma has all our models. It has the user profile, and the vendor profile. So all the profiles you create, and if you click on the user, you just go ahead and see all the things. We have the ID, name, email verified, email verified date, the verification token, the verification count, image, hashed password, role, created at and updated at. Then you have these profiles and the vendor profile. So those are the things we have. So now they just go ahead and create a user. Okay, so if I send here a user, so we have to create 3 users for testing purposes. So I'm just going to go back to this. Okay, just want to go back to the API, users, this route here. So we have to test out some things. The first thing we just want is, so if you just look in our register form, we have to have these two. The register form, just simply go back to the register form in components, register form, just like this. They close out this. So we have the register form, and let's drop this down. So I have this register form. You can see after this, the first test we have to do also is this, if it works, and then we just keep on pushing. Then here, instead, we are pushing people to this page. We see that we have to push people to go after they have signed up. We have to push people to the verify account, that is afterwards. Right now, let's just push them to the login to know that has happened. Okay, so just go ahead and try out, and let's make sure that in our API everything is also okay. Just go to the API. Where is it? API users route. Now here we can just see we have the email password. We check if the user exists. If they don't exist, okay, and make sure, by the way, this one is imported very well. Just let me first remove it on top there. Just go ahead and do db enter like that. It should just import it again on top here, just like this. So just go ahead and check, and then down here we hash the password using the bcrypt. So this is how you hash the password using the bcrypt, just like this. Okay, and then you can just go ahead here we can just go and say db.user.create. Then we pass in the data that you are creating, the email, name, email, and now we have the password and the hashed password. So now I'm just going to have this password just like this. In fact, just have the we're going to have the password just like this, and we also have to have the hashed password, because if you check in our database, here, we have this, the hashed password and the password. Okay, so just like save them like this, password, hash password, and then the role. Okay, just as simple as that. When this is successful, we log the user, and then we just go here and say status 201, and things are good. We send back the data. Just in case we want to use the user data, we can also have it here. Okay, now actually that's why we're just going to send someone to the verify account. We'll send a user to the verify account using the ID in this data. Now we could just also go ahead and look at that data. I don't know if I can just console.log the data. So we have the response data here. Okay, so I would want to console.log that data after, like here, maybe just console.log this data here, response. Okay, console.log response data data, just like this, because you see we are sending it in the route, we are sending it as data. So this object is the response data, then data, where we get this new user. Okay, so let's go back now. The moment of truth, we just go ahead and try. Now this is the register. That means it's supposed to have a normal user role. Okay, let's just go ahead and try and see. Just going to leave it just the way it is. Let's refresh to make sure everything is okay. Okay, just refresh and make sure everything is okay. Take it cool. We are having fun building this, guys. Okay, so let me just I don't know, do we run the npm run dev again? I'm not sure. Let me just confirm. Okay, it is retrying something. What is it retrying? Let me just go up here. Npm ready, compiling, register, blah blah, compiled. Okay, seems like it has compiled. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and create this random user. Okay, remove these ones. Just go ahead and create a random user. Okay, just sign up. Creating, please wait. Okay, so we have this problem. Okay, you can see here it did not go ahead. It brought the problem, and the problem is because of 404. And why it is 404, if you check in our register form, one thing that we did not put actually is this one. Just go back to the form. One thing is this base URL. So this one, I have to go ahead, create this. Now it is always good you name this the base URL, put it in the environmental variables, simply because when you deploy, it is very easy to change only one value in the env file. So just create this is equal to, you can just go ahead and get it from here. Just make sure you have the right one, just like this, and remove this slash. Okay, that's done. We have changed it. I don't know if it will just reload and start the whole thing again. They just wait and see. Reloaded, env compiled. That's great. Okay, so let me just refresh to make sure that everything once again is clear. And let's go ahead and use the fake filler add data, click on sign up. The data here is correctly consoled, the password, the user, and everything. So right now we are hitting the endpoint. I'm just going to go here. You can see on the endpoint, did we get the notification? See this, we actually been redirected to the sign up, the sign in page, meaning it worked. If you just check in the console, we actually have the data. Now, if you want to know that data has come back, this was the first one. Okay, from the console.log, from the form. Now we have on line 41, we have the newly created user. You can see we have created email, verification false, this has password, ID, image, null, name, password, and then we have the hashed password and the actual password, and then we have this whole thing. Okay, if you just check, we also have this onto this. So we have successfully created a user, and by the way, with a user role of user. So to confirm once again, we can create a second user by going to the register vendor. So we can just go to register vendor. Okay, and we'll also register a vendor, and we'll see if this one works. So this a vendor will come here, try to create an account, just create a vendor here, just give them here and sign up. You can see the role is vendor, and then down here we have created them. Great. Now you see here we have this hashed password, ID, email, and the role is vendor. So great, we are able to register users using their user roles. That is very important. Now they take us to this. Now the second step, we have successfully now registered the users. We have to confirm the one thing that we need. Okay, we need to confirm one thing that we need to do. I know this error of class, where is it coming from? Could search for this, where we have this, and it is in the hero section. Okay, so just go to the hero section. First of all, just say Control F, and then say Control H, then replace it with class name equal signs, just like that. Replace all of them. Now we still have to in the nav, just click on them, do the same thing here, just simply replace two of these, and we are done. The problem solved. Okay, instead of seeing it every time. Okay, now moving on. I just want to, what do I want to do? Sometimes I even forget, like these things can be like really so many. Okay, so now we want to actually test out one feature on the registration page. So I'm just going to go to back to register. Okay, now this time let's register someone. Okay, just going to go to the register, just like this. Now let's go ahead and create a genuine user. I'm just going to call this user test name, and you have a test at Gmail, just like this. Password test. Create this user. Now mark the email. The user has been created. We have been redirected here. Let's just go back to register. I want to create the same user. Register. Maybe this user has forgotten that he has already an account, or this is another person who is trying to create an account using someone's email. So let me call myself another name, Andrew, but just use test at Gmail, and just go here, put any password, which is also test. Now try to create sign up. Now you can see quickly here we have user with this email already exists, guys. This is really nice. Okay, user with this email already exists, and we can now check for that. And thanks to this this part of the code that comes here, okay, you can see they come here. Where's the point here? Okay, by the way, if I wanted, I could just use this one, but the most important here is this status. If you wanted, you could also use the message. Okay, but I'm just using the status only, and then give a custom message. User with this email already exists. Okay, now you cannot create more account. If we just come here and we say test2, now we create, now this user will be created. Okay, now we are redirected here. Okay, this is great. We have tested the user registration is working properly. One more thing that we have to handle, okay, that you have to handle on the registration, I think we should do that one just later on, okay, is adding the email verification code, sending the email verification code. Just going to wait a little bit. We first work on the signing. Okay, so when someone, if we don't want sign in people like in the background, instead of sending them to the sign in page, there are some people who say instead we need to send them to the dashboard. Before we do that, let's first work on the sign in. We make sure that we can actually log in these people. Okay, we can log in these people, and this is where actually we use NextAuth. Okay, this is where we use more especially the NextAuth. I'm just going to quickly go to the documentation for the NextAuth. Now I want to really make a comment. NextAuth does not have in any way a good documentation. Their documentation is really bad. Okay, their documentation is really bad. We have already installed. Just go to the providers here, and they just go here and choose the credentials. Okay, for instance, when you go to the credentials, these people, they have not even just actually done what, try to help to do like a very nice example of how it's supposed to be. Okay, so just come here, they say options. The credentials provider comes with a set of default options. They just click on here on options and see. Okay, then they say here example, username and password. Then they say the credentials provider is specified like other providers, except that you need to define the handler for authorized function. We are going to see that accepts the credentials submitted via the HTTP post as input and returns either. So a user object which indicates the credentials are valid. If you return an object, it will be persisted in the JSON web token. By the way, this we are just going to go back. We'll talk about this. Okay, this one will be persisted in a JSON web token, and the user will be signed in unless a custom sign-in callback is configured that subsequently rejects it. Okay, if you return null, then an error will be displayed advising the user to check their details. If you throw an error, the user will be sent to the error page with the error message as a query parameter. These things they are putting here, they are so useful, and we'll try to actually use them. Okay, now the first thing, when you're going to use this, I'm just going to duplicate this. The example they are showing below, they're using for the pages. What we need to do, if you just go here on the getting started, okay, if you go to getting started, they say here new project, you have to install NextAuth. That's what you did. You have to add an API route to capture this. This one is called the catch-all route. So if you're using Next.js 13 or above, you can set the configuration of the new route handlers following our guide. So there is a new another guide here. If you click on it, then they will just take us here. They say introduce the handlers, preferred REST blah blah. You can set this similar to the API routes. So in other words, you have to create this route, API Then you have to copy this. I'm just going to copy this just like this. Copy this. So create this folder inside the API. So I'll create inside the API. Just go here inside the API. Let me create a new file and then paste this. Okay, then change this to, instead of TS, to JS, and just click enter. So I've created a new route inside the API, Auth, then NextAuth with these 3 dots here. The trick is to create a file and then you paste that, or you can just create it one by one, but make sure your path is created in this way. Then inside we can just add these, simple as that. Okay, and just simply paste in here, just paste in this. Then inside here, this next auth, just simply path in auth options. Okay, simply just say auth options. Okay, auth options. Okay, now we already have, I think, auth options, but I just check on this. Just go in the lib, just a second, go in the lib, and you see we're supposed to have these auth options. Let's get them, because they say here import this, and then you can see inside here they have added dash dash, meaning there is some code which it has to go here and is an object, and they just continue here. Internet next dissects this, bang and slice it. Okay, this is talking about these to get and post. If you continue scrolling, advanced initialization, the following describe advanced initialization with the API routes, but everything we apply this, just scroll down. Now this is for the pages, if you're using the pages. Okay, so what you have to do is to create the options. Now the auth options, you can find them still in this guide. Okay, they are here, auth options. You can see if you just scroll here, I've put auth options.js in under helper functions. Just copy this and go in the libs. Let's create these auth options. So in the lib, create auth options.js, just like that, and let's put this one. Now let me just go up here. There are a lot of things here. The first one we have to do, let me start from top here. There are some things we need. The first one, we need this adapter, the Prisma adapter. From Prisma adapter, we installed this one at the beginning. We also need the compare function, which is going to look at the hashed password and the password that we have just entered on the login. Then we need to import, of course, the Prisma instance, and then we get this Prisma instance and pass in the adapter to get all the details. Then another thing is here is this secret. By the way, make sure you just create this secret. You just copy this, just go to the MV and create this. Next auth secret is equal to, just gonna say here, my protected secret. This, any word you put here will work. Okay, any word you put here will work, like secret or something. Now if you just check in this people's documentation, let's search for like secret. I don't know if I can just get where they talked about it. So they just like here in production, we expect to define, just go here, maybe we can just like see this. They say here no secret. In production, we expect you to define a secret property in your configuration. In development, this is shown as a warning for convenience. Please, this is a very important. You can see here they just put this side in it can work, but in production it will not work. Okay, if you just click on read more, so they say define a secret here. They just say you can just like create an object in development for no default, yes, in production. So you can see it is required in production. And if a random string is used to hash tokens, blah blah, cryptographic, if you set next auth So you can see here next auth secret, but the name matters also as environmental variable. You don't have to define this option. Okay, so if you just define this, they were meaning if you define this, you don't have to define it here in this auth options, but I just went ahead and did just put there. Then you can also pass in the session as JWT, which is also by default, by the way. Okay, so you can see here, not providing any secret or next auth secret will run an error in production. Okay, if you want to create a good value for this, by the way, if you wanted to create or open SSL, you could just use this command here and create a very complicated token. Let me show you. If you just come here, go to any of these commands, let me see the one that is not running anything, just click this, try to remove this, I guess, like this is I think not required. Just like now run this, it should just generate like a 32 character. You can just copy this, Ctrl+C, and just go and use it as your secret. Okay, instead of putting like my secret, just put this character that has been generated. As simple as that. That's what they're trying to say. You can use this one. Okay, so you can see here, you can rely on the default say secret generation development. You might notice JWC description, blah blah, like that. Then here they have the session, blah blah. Now we just be continue just going. These are like actually the options. If you look here in the NextAuth, they tell you the three things: environmental variables, NextAuth URL, which you also have to put. If you click on it, NextAuth URL, just copy like that, just go here and let's put it to avoid problems. Okay, just go down here, put NextAuth, and just copy this very one, this one here, and just like put it here. As simple as that. Okay, then another one is NextAuth secret, and then there is NextAuth internal. Okay, is this secret? NextAuth secret used to encrypt the JWT and to hash the email verification tokens, and just like that. I don't know how this one is used actually. Let me just look at this. This is the default for value for the secret option in NextAuth and middleware. There is this NextAuth URL internal. If provided, server-side calls will use this instead of NextAuth URL. Useful in environments when the server doesn't have access to canonical URLs of your site. Defaults to next URL. So you can just use this. Leave only this one since this one is not a must. And those are the three options we need. For the providers, of course, we have to put the provider, then the secret, then the session. Okay, and you can see here in the session you can pass in the strategy. Okay, and they're trying to say I think the strategy by default is database. We put JWT, then there's JWT. Okay, we just look at this JWT function. Okay, there is the pages. We're just going to sort of look at these pages. This is important. For now, I want to just look at this this one. Where is the page I opened? Was it this one? I wanted the one for generating the email tokens or something like that. Creating a database adapter, blah blah. There is this whole thing here. You can also call another one is the verification token here, and the expire. By the way, did not put the expire, but they created it as it's this. It has the string identifier, the token itself, and the expiry. We're supposed also to create the expiry, but can just like leave it like that. Verification token. passwordless sign in. Okay, this is just like for something else, not the one we just like try to put. Okay, no much big deal here. I'm just going to go back. What were we doing exactly? We are setting up NextAuth. Okay, so we have all this one done. Let's go back to the Auth options, and let me just take this one down. So the pages, this is very important, by the way. This is very important to identify the sign-in, and this is where things become tricky. The sign-in must be always one. Okay, the sign-in page, it has to be always one. Otherwise, you will have to have a different mechanism other than NextAuth. And by the way, if you are watching this video and you are advanced in like this NextAuth, one thing you could also help us, if it is possible to have two sign-in routes. And I have no idea if, for instance, I had two routes, can I put like an array here? Like I have like login, then I have like another login page, something like that. This, I've not tried this, and I'm not sure if this is possible at any point. Right now, what I just know is they ask you in the pages, you can actually put where this, you have the pages where you can have the errors. Okay, now another thing is that we can also design our error page. Now I'm not like so good in handling errors, but just going to create an error page where we can look at all our errors just in case. Then you can also just create like error dot something. Okay, I think by default Next.js, what it did, if you go in the app and you create the error page, they just talk about, search about the error page. So error page Next.js, just like that, and you see if just like they talk about the custom errors and blah blah. Just open this, and they just also this look at. Okay, so this custom what pages? No, just like app router. I'm just going to search here for error.js, actually, yes, here like this. So an error file defines an error UI boundary for the route segment. It is useful to catch unexpected errors that occur in server components and client components, and displaying a fallback UI. Instead of the client seeing the ugly something, we can define our own errors. Okay, they just said here app. Even you can just go in the dashboard, you can create its own error page for the dashboard. You can create for each individual, you can create, and you can see here they use the use effect, and then they have like a expect difference function error. Then you have access to the error and the reset. Okay, for instance, you can just like say here console.log errors, then you can say something went wrong, and then try again. So just copy this for the purposes on this. I'm just going to copy this, though there is one file they're talking about down here, props, an instance of an error object forwarded. You're just going to see how this one actually works. Then we have this error.message. The error message for errors forwarded from client components, this will be original error message. For errors forwarded from the server component, this will be generic error message to avoid leaking sensitive details. Error.digest can be used to match the corresponding error in this. Okay, so we have the reset function, a function to reset the error boundary. When executed, the function will try to re-render the error boundary contents. If successful, the fallback error component is replaced with the result of the re-render. Okay, good to know. Error.js boundary must be client components. In production, builds errors towards forwarded to the company, blah blah, like that. Error.js boundary will not handle errors thrown in layout. Okay, you can just go ahead and read about this. What I'm just going to do, this is for handling the errors in the layout. Okay, so I'm just going to go here and just create this file for the purpose of just seeing how to be throwing errors, because NextAuth does you only handles the errors using the error.page. So in the app, just create error.js. I think like error.jsx or js. Can even I think be jsx, because like it has some j6. Just paste this, and you can just remove some TypeScript. This object here, just like that. Okay, so just like this, we have done. We have this. Wherever we have like any, we come here, and so we just try to see, and you can just like have this, something went wrong, or we can capture the error. We see how to actually capture these the errors like onto this page. Okay, and now if you just define the error, you can also just go ahead and you see these, they talk about the errors under the pages. You see here they have this, they have their own page for the errors. Okay, they have their own page for the errors. I don't know if they will take our own page, because now ours is supposed to be now slash maybe errors or something like that. Okay, we'll see how this one will be handled. So they create, now what we want is to log in users. Okay, going back to the auth options, here we already have this on the pages. We are saying that it has the sign in. You can put more pages there. Now for the providers, for now, to avoid confusion, I might just like remove these ones. Okay, and also remove this one. And for the providers, we are only going to leave the credentials as I just mentioned at the beginning, and then also remove them from here. Okay, now scroll down. Now this by default, by the way, they have their sign up. That's why you have to show your own sign in page, and then the credentials, you have to give a name, credentials, and then you have to specify which credentials you are accepting. Okay, we are using email and the password, just like this, and then this is the authorized function we are talking about. So these credentials has the authorized function that will run when you submit the credentials. Okay, so the data first comes to the credentials. When someone inputs in email, password, these data here, they come actually to this authorized function. Now this authorized function starts, now we have this try catch block. Okay, so the first thing here, you can see here, I'm trying to console to understand clearly that you are receiving these credentials. You can see my first step, console.log, authorized function code with the credentials. Okay, or you can just say here, authorized functions has received the credentials, has received credentials, and we can pass the credentials themselves here, the email and password object. The first thing, when after you have received these credentials, the first check is check if the credentials are correct, and in fact they are not empty. Here they are not empty. Of course, this one we protect this using on the server, on the client side. We cannot allow people to just submit. If you try to submit, we have this field is required. This field is required using the route this validation is called what? I always forget, but you can always just see in the login function. They just go in the login form. So in the login, you can see here we use this use form from React Hook Forms. Okay, so we use React Hook Form to help us and capture the errors, and you can see the same way here we are capturing these errors if there is no fields or if you don't fill in anything. Okay, so when you do that, when you enter your options, they come here and we first check. The first check is checking if they are not empty. That's why here we say throw. Now this is what we are talking about. So when you throw this, you throw the error, no inputs found. Now this is where this error page comes into play. This here, this error page will come into play because you are throwing a new error here and then like this here. Okay, now here when they pass, you can see when this pass is passed, you can see I'm passing here. Okay, check pass one checked. Okay, so just like here, this one has passed this check, and then we go to the second check. Okay, we could just say here it has passed check 1, just like this, to know that the check 1 has been checked and they have passed, they have gone to the second one. Now we first check if the user exists in the database, because this might be a user who needs actually to register but came to the login page and maybe they think they have an account with us. So we check if the user exists. So we come here, existing user is DB. By the way, make sure you have this DB, and this DB we import it on top here. Okay, so we check if the user of this email, which is credentials.email, exists. If he does not exist, we throw another error, no user found. Okay, we can just say maybe a user with this email, you don't have an account with us or something like that, but we have this no user found, and we also console this. If they pass this, we can just say passed check 2. Just say passed checkpoint 2. Okay, and now when they pass this, also we can also console the existing user. I don't need this, we can remove that. Now we check, the third check is check if the password is correct. So this is why we use the bcrypt. We create this password match and we say await compare. It compares the credentials.password. Now this is the one you have passed in just right now, the one that is coming what the user type in here. Remember, the user types in a plain password. That's why we need this. A user types in a plain password here. Okay, they type in a plain password, and this is what we receive as credentials.email .password, credentials.password plus existing user whom we found the database. Okay, .hashed password. Okay, if they don't match, we again create another error, and then that's why we need the error page to show these errors. And then we have this pass 3, which checks if you pass the last one for the password, you basically has been authenticated, you have proven your identity. Now we get the user. Now what we put in here is what we want onto the user. Now as you can see, user has a lot of things we want from them. If you go back to this, for instance, the user have this, we could just like put in the session. Okay, let me just see what do I need from the session. For instance, name, email. Okay, you might just also need this email verified, so you can also go ahead and put this. If we needed this, we could just say come here and we just say we need email verified. Whatever you need, just pass it here, because this one will be passed to the token. So you say we need email verified, which is same as existing user dot email verified. Okay, existing user dot email verified. Okay, go ahead and get the image. Do we have the image? Now we don't have the image, so you can just also put in the image into this. Just put here image, which is going to be existing user.image. And what else do we need? Okay, we don't want the password, we want the role, as simple as that. So we need the role. Yep. So this is what you're just going to put into the session. Now whatever you're returning here, this will be passed into the JWT token. Okay, so the generated token will use the data that you use here. Okay, so when you return the user, you can see here console.log user compiled, and I'm consoling the user that I've created here, and I'm returning. Make sure you are returning this user here, and if there's anything, we are throwing also something went wrong, status 401. Now this one, actually in this case, you might just not need actually this sign in, remove this. This one is needed when you have the Google and Gmail, the GitHub, the Google. I'm going to remove that one. Now you see that we have this object, this key called callbacks. In the callbacks, we have two functions right now. We have the JWT and the session. Now I want to show you how these functions run. Okay, so the first function that runs actually is the authorize function. So when the credentials is called, the authorize function is run. You run the authorize function, receive the credentials, processes the credentials, and at the end of the day, they return this user. So where does this user go? Now this user data is passed into the JWT token as JWT token, or is passed into the JWT function. And that's why you see in this, you are having a user entering this JWT. Okay, this is entering as the user. Now we could actually go ahead and fetch. Now this could be necessary. This would be necessary if we want to modify. Why I did this is because I had considered if a user has also used not the credentials. You can imagine if the user did not use the credentials, okay, they only used the Google, then would actually first have to fetch the user again, just like that. Okay, but right now what we're just going to do is we are going to get this user, and we can first check here. Okay, what I can just do is this. I just replace with this as the user. Let's check if no user, but of course there will be always user. Okay, just say here, we could just say in short, let me just cut this object. Okay, okay, I just create an object. So now this object will we get here will be the token. Okay, so you could just remove this. You could just like say if user. Okay, like here we say maybe if user. Okay, then we could just go ahead and return just like that. Okay, just like return the token. Okay, so I'm just going to come here and add in. So you could just add already by default token will have some data, but we could just like come here and we actually create a totally new this object. Like here, we can just return. You don't need just like even to name it as token or something. Okay, you can see here this is passed in also as token. You could just like go ahead and create an entirely new object from the user. Okay, this is up to you. or you could just go ahead and this while we have this db user, we just say user here, and what you define here is what you want to see in the session. So what I just normally do is you can just go ahead in this function, the authorize function, all the things that you returned here, these ones here, you want to persist them in the token. Okay, you could just come here and you persist these ones in the token. I don't know if we also go to the ID. Okay, so we have also the ID here, just like that. So you could just come and here and persist these. Okay, this one is basically a user, just like that. You just want to persist them, but just know the object that you return in the JWT will be taken as the token. Okay, you could just come here and you say create a new object, and you could just even just do something like this, spread whatever is in the token, and then like you just add this. Okay, whatever is not there, it will be updated from here. Okay, that's how what you can just, you can spread whatever is in the token and then create also these ones. Okay, so this, we have this the token, we have it. If there is a user, they will just go ahead and generate for us the token. Now whatever you return here in this token here, okay, whatever you return here, by the way, you could just go and create an object, blah blah, and then return token, but spread just like this. So we have this data, and the most important, you can see we have the role and the image and then the all these. The most important, what we have to do is now persist these into the session. Remember, data first comes into the JWT, and now pass this data into the session. That's why you see in the session actually we have token. Okay, it is only the token that comes from here. So this token that we actually returned here, whatever you returned from here, will be returned as the token, and then it comes into the session here. Now when we reach in the session, okay, when that's why you see everything is going to be updated. Okay, I don't know if we have to check if there is a user. Okay, by the way, the session also have its own user by default. The session, even if you don't do anything we have done below here, the session still will give you a user. Okay, now this user is what we are actually updating here. You can see session.user ID is token ID, user.name, email, role, and image. You can just go here and also put session.user.email verified is token.email verified. Make sure all the things you have are the ones you have here. Okay, great. So now we have our session created. So whatever we return here, that's why we say we are returning the session, because we are modifying the session here all the time. So we're just verifying this. You could have done the same thing on the token. You say token.id is this, token.name is this, token.email, token.role, token.image, and token.ear. This, then afterwards you return the token. Whatever you want here, just returned the object itself. I think the same thing. Okay, so now here we are done. Okay, here we are done. We expect to get a user. So how are we going to know we actually have a user? First of all, we have to make sure we are capturing this session. Okay, so to do that, we have to create a provider. Okay, so I'm just going to go here, create a context. So you simply create a new I think folder, just create context, just like that, context, and then in here just simply create a file. So here you have the context and then you have the file. Okay, just going to create this one, Auth, I think like Auth provider, or just create like providers, I don't know, like Auth provider dot JSX, I think like JS or JSX, like whatever, it will just work. So just like right now, you can just come here and say RFC. Okay, just like that. So in this auth provider, you just have to return the session. First of all, it has access to this. Is going to be used. Can also this children here, and then like here you can just have like session provider. Now you can just copy this. We have it also into this. If you just go and continue down here, I don't know if it's just down or up. There is this auth provider actually down here. Okay, so just this auth provider, just copy this and just go back here and then copy this. Okay, export default auth provider as children, and then it has access to the session provider, and the session provider comes from the NextAuth. As simple as that. Now also modify the page layout. Okay, so you just have to modify the layout. They just go ahead and just copy this and just go to the layout. Where is the layout? So we have two we have a lot of layouts, but I just want to modify this one here in the app, just this. Okay, we might just need to keep this. Let me just try to put it see one thing. I'm just going to see one thing that we don't have. If we don't have, so we have like the navbar, blah blah. So the one thing we don't have on this, I'm just going to copy it just to maintain it. This, the next SSR. Just to do that, let me just update it inside here. Okay, so after this auth provider and even this, just put this. Okay, now let me just copy this, guys, and update the entire thing. I don't know if do I need to just like get this like that and paste. I don't know, up here we have to rectify some things, like the metadata, we have it twice. Okay, so let's just go starting from here, export metadata, enter styles. Okay, just like that. Okay, then we have the auth provider. From context, we can remove this and we ensure that we're importing this correctly. Let me just go down here. Okay, make sure this auth provider, we're importing it correctly from the context. And this is just like to tell you that actually the user, they just put them in the global context. They use context API, as simple as that. Then what else? I think that's it. I think we are just done. Okay, there are only some few things we don't, like the navbar, we don't have it. Just remove the navbar. We don't need the navbar in any way here. And by the way, you notice our notifications were not working, is because we haven't actually brought in this toaster. I was just thinking we are going to set it up later, but we just like fix it at the same time. So I think we're just now good to go, unless we have any problem. Okay, just update those ones and I think we'll be good to go. What we can just do to know that this is working, when we log in, let's go back to the login. Where is the login? Let's just go to the login components, login form. Okay, so on the login form, what are we doing exactly? So the login form, basically we have a form which has email, password. So the first thing you have to confirm is that you are getting these credentials very well, and you pass them into the onSubmit function. The onSubmit function will just get them here as data. Now you can just go ahead and create them as credentials. You can see here, you just have to, so you have console.log attempting to log in with the credentials. Okay, we could first actually remove all these other things we have here to first test one thing. I always like that. So first test all these other things before we move on. So just go up to this point of data here. Okay, comment all these other code, this all other code. Okay, and even this. Okay, just have only this. Just attempting sign in with credentials. Let's first go and test all that one works. Just go to the sign in. What? Do we still have this error, or this one's just like wrong time? Do we have navbar in the layout? Okay, sorry guys, just remove this navbar. We don't need the navbar here. Okay, so just remove that, and then like we should just like have a working login now. Okay, so the only thing we want to test is, can we type in and we get the credentials? I'm just going to test in test@gmail, and my password is test. Okay, just log in. Okay, so yeah, attempting to sign in with the credentials. Okay, did we just go ahead and send the data? Okay, but the only thing that is that we have this, the email and the password. The most important thing you have to remember, we are going to use this function in the future. I want you to remember, the only thing that you need you to type in is the email plus the password. Most importantly, the plain password. Okay, we need the plain password here. Okay, so when this data is gotten, let's go back to the login form. So when we get that data, now we actually call the sign in function. So you just go ahead and actually activate back this one. Just activate this is here. Okay, so now we have this set loading to true, attempting to log in. So you have this sign in with credentials, we have login data. So now this is just a login data is await sign in. Now this sign in function is a global sign in function actually for both for both providers. If you can have credentials, you can have Google, you can see all of them that are here, Google, GitLab, and all that kind of stuff. So just right now you're using just like credentials. You can see Cognito and Coinbase and so forth. So this is a sign in, a general sign in function. Now depending on the sign in function for the provider you are passing in, it will ask you to pass in a different object here. For the credentials, we pass in the data. You can see I have spread the data. Okay, if you just remember it was an object. If you spread an object, it will be a key and a value, and it will be just like email and password, just like email and password. Then we say redirect false. Then that you can see here, console.log sign in response login data. I don't think it's necessary. Now on the other example, we just check for the error. If there is error, we just say sign in error, check your credentials. Now at this point when you sign in, this is where the auth options will kick in this authorize function will kick in and start actually authenticating and sending the errors. Okay, now just go back for a second in this. The most important thing is after the successful, we can just send them to the home page. Okay, we can send them to the home page. Now on the home page, I don't think there's much we can do, but what we can just do on the home page, and what is the home page actually? On the home page is this page, here. Okay, now if you check, this page is actually server side. So in Next.js, we have two places, or we have two ways we can access things. Okay, or we have two types of components. We have the server side components and the client components, and NextAuth has also been prepared for those two things. If we are in the server side, so we have to look at how do you get data in server side. So server side, Okay, getting data, getting session, getting session data, like in server side and also in client side. So just going to examples. In the server side, we take this home page to be a server side, like this hero section, because there is nothing really here that is. So you can just get here server side. We can just use get server option. So you say const session is equal to, okay, get server session from NextAuth. And then this one actually takes in the auth options. So you just go here and you take in auth options, just like that. I don't know if this is supposed to be await. I think it's like just like await. Do we? Let me just go like on this, and you can say type in like here server, just like get server, get server session, just like this. Let's just look at what they will just give us. So get server session, you can create a helper function, so you don't need to pass the auth option around. Oh, so they just have this nice function called auth.js, which actually have like this get, and then like takes in like this. Now, what are they just doing with it? Just like in a second, use it in server contexts. You can see here function auth takes in the add in this blah blah, return get server arg and the config. Just want to just see how to use it. Get server session props. Okay, so this is how you're supposed to use it. So you just come and you have to pass in the you have to pass in this, and then you can check if there's no session, then blah blah. There's await. So that's what I want you to see. So this is await, and then it makes this one, we make it async function, and this can only be done in in the server components. Okay, so we just get the session, and then wherever, if you want to redirect people, you can just do this. Okay, and then you can just like by the way, this is in the pages, I guess. Okay, in the pages is where we have this kind of thing like this. At that time when we're having like those days, then here 404, this is in the API routes. Okay, I think this one just is enough. We can just like check. We could just go ahead and say if session is there. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just say console.log session dot user. So just have them access them on the user, and we could just say if the user exists, just like this. If the session is there, they just have the console.session. Okay, then in a place, this is only in the server side. So in the server side, this is how we get the user data. Okay, this is how we get the user data in the server side components. In this in the client side components, okay, in the client side components, we can just take the navbar to be the client side component. Where is the navbar? So the navbar section is here. Okay, you can see on top here clearly we're using use client, which makes it a client component. So how do we get, by the way, you see I have this thing here, code is logged in, and I was using it to control this drop down. To show you what it means, let me make this one true. Okay, let me make that one true, and you see how the navbar changes. Go back to the app and just simply like scroll up. Now like these buttons are supposed like to get hidden for some reason, I don't know. Like this is the register, let's go to the his. So you can see now, all of a sudden now we can see this. Okay, we can see this now. This one, the user. Okay, we can just see the logged in user. Okay, nice. So if you just put false, back to false, does it disappear? So we have to disappear, I guess. I don't know if in the supposed to disappear. Yes, yeah. So you can see it has disappeared. We only have these two, and it has disappeared if the user is not logged in. So we're just going to control this using the session. So in the client side, how do you get data here? So just going to put here getting data in the client components. Okay, so here we just have to get the user now from the session. Okay, so you just say const and then you just get this from use session. Okay, comes also from this, just like that. Then here we can just get in three things. The first one, we get data, which we'll rename it as session. Okay, we can also get other things, for instance status. Okay, important, you can just also get the session and the status from this. Now we could just first of all check the status. Okay, if, for instance, if the status, okay, if for instance the status is equal to, so the status can be or any of these three: authenticated, loading, or unauthenticated. Okay, so for instance we can just say if it is loading, we can show now a loading spinner. If you have your loading spinner, just say here put a p tag, so just say return, for instance return, then you can say return a p tag. Now in normal circumstances you would return like a spinner or something like spinning or whatever. So just say here loading dot dot, just like that. Now you could just go ahead and say if, okay, if status. So for instance in the other case we can just say so also console.log the data. So want to come here and say in the first place we could just go and say console.log, okay, session dot user, okay, just like that. And I think just like maybe just like put only this: if the status is authenticated, if status is equal to authenticated, okay, just like this. Then we can just console.log session.user. Now I want to use this same technique to actually show this. Instead of saying this is logged in and I show this, I only just want to check if status is actually authenticated. Okay, if the status is authenticated, then I can just go ahead and show this. Okay, now we'll be seeing in the future how we can manipulate. We put all these things, the image, blah blah, from the user. Okay, right now let's just like just do that. Nothing much has happened. Now the moment of truth is actually just going ahead. Let me just refresh and try actually to sign in a user. Okay, remember when a user is signed in, we actually send them, if you just go to the login component, you said if everything is successful here, if there is no error, okay, you see if there is error, we just do this. If there is no error, we toast the success, login successful, we reset the credentials, and we go ahead and push to this localhost. I don't know where all these ones are coming from for now. Okay, Just going to put in the test. Okay, I noticed that Gmail is there. Password test. You just go ahead and click login. Login is successful. We have an error. Okay, reference auth option is not defined. And okay, so just go here. In the NextAuth, we have a problem. Okay, they just go and go to the NextAuth. We forgot to do that. Let me just go to API auth, this route, auth options. Just get them here. You're supposed to pass them here. Actually, we did not do that. Sorry. Let's just go back, and you can see they're sending us to this page. I need it to just reload, and we see. And even when you're just so much careful, most of the times, even if you're so careful, you already just get those errors. Okay, so just be ready to see the error and try to troubleshoot whatever the case it may be. Okay, just try to get here the test, and then test, just click login. We have the attempting to log in with the credentials. Login successful, guys. Look at this. First of all, look at the navbar. So the navbar has gotten this. Okay, the navbar has been changed. That one tells us that something good has happened, and we are on this page. Let's go and check the consoles we have here, guys. Look at this. So we have the session. Let's look at what do we have, and we have only email. Not this is from the login. I just want from the response name. Okay, there is one broadcasting from the navbar. Okay, we have one broadcasting from the navbar here. Let's check. Now in the navbar, we actually have email, image, and name only. Just only these ones in the default session. Okay, that is very interesting. Just go down here. I think we so supposed to have another one from the hero section. I think we just only have the one on top here. Now automatically tells us that our host options, we need to check something. Okay, so this data here, let's just go actually just check here. If you just go to this, you will see the data basically might have just gotten lost somewhere. Just go here and check. Scroll down. Okay, so you can see here authorized function received credentials, and pass 1 checked, pass 2, pass 3 checked, user compiled. So you can see we compiled the user. Okay, now there is this one. This one is broadcasting from where? You can see like we have this one, name, image, like all these ones are undefined. Oh, this is I think from the this is the server side. This is the server side part. Now let's just go ahead and do something. Maybe let's just go and do something more, especially in the JWT token here. Okay, so instead what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to say the same thing that I did here. Okay, just instead just do this. I'm just going to do this because like I'm just going to check if there is a user. Okay, inside here just do this. If user, I'm just going to remove this. Okay, And I'm just going to say that I'm just going to update the token. So it will be now here token instead of the session, just say token, even this token. Okay, so token.user.id, token.user.name.email, role, image, and email verified, and then return the token. Maybe say this one if it can modify, and we return the token. Okay, now the problem, we can't just like console these things. I wish we could just like come here and like we console the token. Okay, it's a console.log token.user. Just like we just like get the token here, and then here just going to update, and let's just get like session.user. By the way, did we have like here a second? There is nothing like this site. We are just we don't need a user. Okay, so just like copy this and remove this, just like that. Token.id is going to be user. So inside here, just like get this. Oh, okay, just have this as user, user, and then even here user. Okay, they just like assume that. Okay, we can just console the token. I don't know if that one is possible. Now we could just like also just have the logout function, like to log out this person from like here sign out. Okay, I think there is the sign out. If we just check here, you just go like a sign out, I guess, like sign out, just like bring like errors. There is no sign out, just like sign out function. The way we have the sign in, I think we have the sign out. Okay, but we have the user right now. Just like see if we can have the user in the session. What I'm just going to do is just going to go back here and just try to remove this user from the session. Just come here in the application and just remove all these, delete them, and let's reload. We see if we still have this user here. Okay, so the user is gone. So just go ahead and log in again one more time. Okay, and let me just like put again the test. Password is test. Login, signing in is okay. So we have the user again signed in. Let's just go ahead and see the data we have in the console as user. Okay, so we still have like the same information. Let me just refresh. Okay, so we still have this in the session. We still have only the 3 things in the session. That's very interesting. Let's first look at what we have this side. I think this is like, I think, good for you to see. So the user is compiled very well with all this. More especially we want the role, and then we have this, and like we have it. Like this is the only token. That's very interesting. So meaning that the user actually might be not reaching, because if you look at this, if you look at the user here, like we're having only this. Okay, so I might just like copy the other original method I was using. Okay, just like continue scrolling down. This is the token object. So you have passed the user compiled the token object in this session. There is a image, then there is picture also. So this is this the session? We have picture and then the image undefined, and then a picture now. Okay, then we have this bigger one. I think this is like the token, which has like the email, name, email, picture, and then like all these role, then email, this and that, and then we have that, then we have this. I don't know why our data is not reaching this session. Okay, now what I just need to do also is to put some things on it so that we can just see it properly. Okay, just go back to the session, more especially like this session. Are we checking the user? Do we really need the user or the token? You say, I think is if token. I think is we don't need like, do we need the user really? We just like say if token, just like that, because just going to be updating from the token. The user might not be there. Actually, do we need the user really here? We just only just need like the session and the token, and then we update the token. Session.user is token.id. I think now it should work. So I'm just going to go here, and where is the console.log we had? So there is this one. Okay, the one we have here. I just want to make a console.log that is going to guide us. Like here, I'm just going to have this session just tagged like this. Let me just like give it something whereby we can see it properly. I'm just going to tag it just like that. I'm just going to say token, and then I put these colons, and then I put $, and then I put token. Like really, you just want to see what is happening. So just going to console this, get it, and just go also in the session. So before we return it here, I want to see session. Okay, then I have here session. Then now for others, we have already seen that the compiling up here is okay. So this console the user, remove this one. Okay, the only thing I just want to say is the user compiled. As simple as that. Yeah, I think that is just say everything is okay. Let's just go ahead and see. And by the way, here we want to say session.user. Okay, because you might not like this token itself, then here we have to see the token. Okay, so great. Just go ahead and sign this person out by going back to the application, then just simply delete this under the cookies. They save it as cookies. Just remove the cookies. Now let's refresh. Can see is gone. Is like logged out. Okay, click on sign in one more time. Okay, we have to test under all circumstances and see that we have our user bringing what we want. Signing in one more time. Okay, signing in one more time. Just want to look at the logged in successful. We just go check. Now let's just go ahead and go up here. I don't know where now they start from. Compiled. Now we have here the session. Okay, we have the token in session. I think like they're giving us like object, and then they don't give us anything. But the good news is that right now we have this. Looks like this is coming from this looks like an object coming from the home page. Let's go and check the console now. We might have the actual session, all of it. Got the console, and finally I think we have it. Yep, so you have the email, you have the email verified, all this image and name, and then the role. So finally we all have the data we want. Okay, so congratulations, you have seen the trick is I think the trick is here on the. So here we check if the user, so in the JW2 token I'm checking if user, then we update the token. Then in the session is if token. Okay, because this data is added in the token, we are checking the user, which is not actually makes sense. Then we come here and we update the session with all this information. Let's see if we have the email verified. Yeah, we also have even the email verified. Okay, so I feel like we have already taken about 2 hours or 2 something hours, or even 3 hours. I don't know the time right now. The only thing I just mean that we have taken a lot of time. So just going to take a break, and then we just come up with episode 2. I think in episode 2 is whereby we'll just handle the sending of the verification email, whereby you're just going to use React email and the resend. Okay, just going to use React email and resend. Then we're also going to see how you can just actually customize the template, and we're going to look at how we can also restrict people in the dashboard. So right now, also if we go to the dashboard, the good thing is we have our role broadcasting here now. We can now control everyone, and we look at the authorization because we have now the role. So the role is going to help us in the authorization part of this authentication system. Thank you so much for watching this episode 1. We are just going to come up with episode 2. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next episode.